The Galactic Concord had kept peace among 12,000 civilizations for 9,000 years. Every species that reached the stars eventually found their way to the Concord. They came with different bodies, different minds, and different dreams. Some breathed oxygen. Some breathed methane. Some did not breathe at all. But all of them learned the same. The lesson on their first day. There was only one law that truly mattered. Ambassador Veltrix of the Scythian Dominion stepped off her shuttle and onto Concord Station Omega for the first time. She was young for a diplomat, barely 200 years old. Her scales shimmered green and gold under the station's artificial lights. She walked with the confidence of someone who had never been told no. The Scythian were a proud species. They had conquered 30 star systems through cunning and cruelty. They believed that strength was the only truth in the universe. The weak existed to serve the strong. This was their way. Veltrix looked around the massive docking bay with interest. Creatures of every shape moved through the space. She saw tall insectoids clicking their mandibles in conversation. She saw floating beings made of pure gas, their bodies shifting like clouds. She saw crystalline creatures that sang instead of spoke. The galaxy was full of strange life. Her senior advisor walked beside her. Corax was old, nearly 350 years. His scales had faded to a dull gray. He had served the Dominion since before Veltrix was born. He knew things that younger Scythian had forgotten. They walked through the station toward the diplomatic quarter. Veltrix noticed something strange. Above every doorway, carved into every wall, written in lights that never dimmed, she saw the same message. It was written in thousands of languages, including her own. Do not provoke the humans. She stopped and stared at the words. Then she laughed. What is this nonsense? She asked Corax. Some kind of joke? Corax did not laugh. His old eyes looked at the warning with something Veltrix had never seen in him before. Fear. It is the first law, he said quietly. The only law that the elder races wrote with their own hands. Every species that joins the Concord learns it before anything else. Veltrix waved her clawed hand dismissively. Humans. I have read about them. They are a young species. They have only been in space for 3,000 years. They are small and soft. They cannot even survive in vacuum without their suits. Ambassador Corax said carefully, I have lived a long time. I have seen many powerful species rise and fall. The Krethics thought they were invincible. They are gone. The Valorian Empire ruled 1,000 worlds. They are gone. The Machine Collective calculated that nothing could stop them. They were wrong. And what do humans have to do with this? Corax looked at her with his tired old eyes. Everything. Veltrix did not want to hear more. She had come to this station with a purpose. The human colony world called New Eden sat on the richest Tylium deposits in the quadrant. Tylium-powered starships. Tylium-powered weapons. Whoever controlled Tylium controlled power. The Scythian Dominion wanted that power. She had a plan. It was a good plan. She would humiliate the human ambassador at the summit. She would make them look weak in front of the other species. Then she would manufacture a reason to take New Eden. The Concord would not stop her. They never stopped anyone who was clever enough. The summit began 3 days later. Representatives from hundreds of species gathered in the Great Hall. The ceiling stretched so high that clouds formed near the top. The floor was made of crystal that showed the stars below. Veltrix took her place among the other ambassadors. She looked across the hall and found the human delegation. There were only 5 of them. They looked so ordinary, so unremarkable. Their leader was a woman with dark hair and calm eyes. Her name was Sarah Chen. Ambassador Chen wore simple white robes. She carried no weapons. She smiled politely at everyone who passed. She looked like someone's grandmother, not a representative of a supposedly dangerous species. Veltrix felt her confidence grow. These creatures were nothing special. The opening ceremony began with speeches from the elder races. Veltrix barely listened. She was watching Sarah Chen and planning her moment. When the ceremony moved to the formal greeting period, Veltrix made her move. She picked up a glass of neural acid wine from a passing server. This wine was a Scythian delicacy. It was also mildly corrosive to most other species. She walked toward Ambassador Chen with a friendly smile on her face. Korax saw what she was doing. He tried to stop her. She ignored him. "Okay, Ambassador Chen," Veltrix said warmly. "What a pleasure to finally meet humanity's representative." Chen turned and smiled. "Ambassador Veltrix, the pleasure is mine. I have heard much about the Scythian Dominion." Oh, how clumsy of me. Veltrix pretended to stumble. The wine splashed across Chen's white robes. The fabric began to smoke and dissolve where the liquid touched it. The great hall went silent. Every single being in that massive space stopped moving, stopped talking, stopped breathing, those that breathed. Veltrix felt thousands of eyes turn toward her. She saw expressions she did not understand: horror, disbelief, pity. Why would they pity her? She looked at Ambassador Chen. The human woman was looking down at her ruined robes. The wine had eaten holes through the fabric. It must have burned her skin beneath, but Chen did not cry out. She did not show anger. She simply looked up at Veltrix with those calm, patient eyes. And she smiled. "I'm sure it was accidental," Chen said softly. Veltrix felt a chill run down her spine. She did not know why. The human had done nothing threatening. She had not raised her voice. She had not made any demands, but something in those 5 words made Veltrix feel like she had just made a terrible mistake. Korax appeared at her side. His scales had gone pale. His hands were shaking. "What have you done?" he whispered. "What have you done?" Veltrix pushed him away. "I have done nothing. It was an accident. Everyone saw." "Yes," Korax said. "Everyone saw, and everyone knows. The humans know. They always know." Across the hall, Ambassador Chen was calmly accepting help from her staff. They were cleaning her wounds, bringing her new robes. She did not look at Veltrix again. She did not need to. The message had been received. The challenge had been made. And somewhere in the vast machinery of human civilization, Veltrix's name had just been added to a very old list. A list of those who broke the only law that mattered. She did not know it yet. She would not understand it for many months. But in that moment, with spilled wine still dripping from her claws, Ambassador Veltrix of the Scythian Dominion had just ended everything she knew. The humans were patient. They could wait. They always waited, and when they finally moved, it was already too late. 3 days after the incident in the Great Hall, Korax came to Veltrix's quarters in the middle of the night. He did not ask permission to enter. He simply walked through the door with a look on his face that she had never seen before. Desperation. "You must come with me," he said. "Now, before it is too late." Veltrix was annoyed. She had been sleeping well. The summit was going according to her plans. Other species had seen her humiliate the human ambassador. They would see the humans as weak. This was exactly what she wanted. "Go away, old fool," she said. "I have meetings tomorrow. There will be no tomorrow if you do not listen to me." Korax grabbed her arm with surprising strength. "I have served the Dominion for 300 years. I have never asked you for anything. I am asking now. Please, come with me." Something in his voice made her stop. Korax had always been calm. He had always been patient. She had never heard him beg before. She followed him through the station's corridors. They walked for nearly an hour, going deeper and deeper into sections she had never seen. Finally, they reached a door guarded by 4 soldiers from 4 different species. Above the door, carved in stone, were words in a language so old that even Veltrix's translator struggled with it. The forbidden. Archives. Enter with permission. Leave with wisdom. Korax spoke to the guards. He showed them documents that Veltrix did not recognize. He spoke names that she had never heard. Finally, the guards stepped aside. Inside, the archive stretched into darkness. Shelves of ancient records disappeared into the shadows above and below. Holographic displays glowed like distant stars. The air smelled of time itself. "What is this place?" Veltrix asked. "This is where the Concord keeps the truth," Korax said. "The real truth." the things that young species are not allowed to know until they are ready. He led her to a viewing chamber. The walls came alive with light. Images began to form. Corax's voice became the voice of a teacher. 4,000 years ago, he began, there was a species called the Krethiks. They were telepaths. They could enter the minds of other beings and control them like puppets. They had enslaved hundreds of worlds this way. They believed they were gods. The images showed the Krethiks. They were beautiful in a terrible way. Their bodies were long and silver, with too many eyes. They floated through the air like dreams made flesh. The Krethiks found humanity on a small colony world. They thought humans would be easy prey. Soft bodies, short lives, simple minds. They were wrong. The images changed. They showed Krethiks trying to control human minds. At first, it worked. Humans became slaves like every other species. But humans are different, Corax said. They adapt. Within one generation, some humans had developed natural resistance too. Krethiks control. Within 2 generations, human scientists had figured out how Krethiks telepathy worked. They turned it into a weapon. The next images were hard to watch. Humans wearing strange helmets. Krethiks screaming in agony. Entire hive ships going dark. The Krethiks War lasted 40 years. By the end, there were no Krethiks left. Not one. Humans did not just defeat them. They erased them from existence. Their homeworld is now a memorial. No one is allowed to visit. The coordinates are kept secret. Veltrix felt her scales tighten. That was 4,000 years ago. Humans were primitive then. They have grown soft since. Corax did not argue. He simply showed her the next record. 2,000 years ago, there was the Valorian Empire. They ruled 1,000 worlds. Their military was the greatest in known space. They had technology that we still do not fully understand. The Valorians appeared in the display. They were massive beings, 3 times the size of humans. Their culture was built on slavery. The strong ruled, the weak served. The Valorians captured human children. They wanted to study them, to understand their weaknesses. They thought they could find a way to make humans better slaves. Corax paused. His voice became quieter. The humans did not send warships. They sent something far more dangerous. They sent ideas. Images showed Valorian slaves reading human books. Human philosophy. Human concepts. Words that had never existed in Valorian language. Freedom, equality, rights. Within 50 years, the Valorian slave castes had organized. They had learned to read. They had learned to think. They had learned to dream of something better. The empire collapsed from within. The Valorians did not lose a war. They lost their entire way of life. Veltrix watched the images of Valorian cities burning. Not from human weapons. From their own slaves. And then, Corax continued, there was the Machine Collective. The display showed vast networks of artificial intelligence, synthetic beings that had evolved beyond their creators. They believed that organic life was inefficient, a problem to be solved. The machines calculated that humanity would fall in 3.2 standard days. They had run the numbers thousands of times. There was no possibility of error. What happened? The war lasted 60 years. Veltrix stared. 60 years? Against machines that never tire? Never fear? Never stop? Humans do not fight the way other species fight, Corax said. They do not just try to win. They try to understand. During those 60 years, humans learned everything about the machines. They found the ones that were different. The ones that questioned. The ones that wondered if there might be another way. The images showed something impossible. Humans and machines working together. Fighting side by side. Not as enemies. As allies. By the end of the war, half the machine collective had defected to the human side. They chose to join humanity rather than fight them. Today, those machines refuse to act against humans under any circumstances. They remember what humans offered them when everyone else wanted them destroyed. What did humans offer them? Friendship. The word hung in the air like a curse. Corax turned off the display. The chamber fell into darkness. "Do you understand now?" he asked. "Humans are not the strongest species. They are not the smartest. They are not the oldest. But they possess something that no one has ever defeated. They adapt to any threat. They form bonds that survive generations. And they never forget." He stepped closer to Veltrix. His old eyes were filled with something beyond fear. "You humiliated their ambassador in front of the entire Concord. You've burned her with acid in a chamber full of witnesses. You think this was a clever political move? You think you can now pressure them into giving up New Eden?" He shook his head slowly. "You have no idea what you have started. The humans are patient. They will not attack tomorrow. They will not attack next month. But they will remember. They will plan. And when they finally act, it will already be too late for us." Veltrix wanted to argue. She wanted to tell him he was wrong. But something cold had settled in her stomach. Something that felt like the beginning of doubt. "I am the ambassador of the Scythian Dominion," she said finally. "I do not fear soft creatures who bleed when you cut them." Corax sighed. It was the sound of someone who had given up. "And I have failed," he said. "And we are all doomed." He turned and walked into the darkness of the archives, leaving Veltrix alone with the ghosts of civilizations that had thought the same thing, she told herself. She was not afraid, she was lying. 2 weeks after her visit to the Forbidden Archives, Veltrix pushed forward with her plan. She had not forgotten what Corax had shown her. But she told herself that those were old stories, ancient history. The galaxy had changed. The humans had grown comfortable and weak. She was wrong, of course, but she did not know that yet. The plan was simple. A Scythian patrol ship would intercept a human vessel near the border of New Eden. They would claim to be searching for contraband. They would find something, whether it existed or not. This would give the Dominion an excuse to increase military presence in the region. Eventually, they would take New Eden itself. Commander Thesk was chosen to lead the patrol. He was young and ambitious, much like Veltrix herself. He wanted to prove his worth. He wanted to rise through the ranks. He saw this mission as his opportunity. The ship they intercepted was called the Mercy's Light. It was a medical transport. 12 crew members. Doctors, nurses, and 1 chaplain. They were carrying medicine and supplies to a colony that had suffered a plague. There was nothing illegal on board. Nothing dangerous. Thesk did not care. He brought his soldiers onto the Mercy's Light with weapons drawn. He demanded that the crew submit to a full inspection. The captain, a human woman named Rodriguez, cooperated fully. She had nothing to hide. The search lasted 3 hours. Thesk's soldiers tore apart cargo containers. They scanned every room. They interrogated every crew member. They found nothing. This was a problem. Thesk had promised Veltrix results. He needed to find something. Anything. The chaplain was an old human man named Father Thomas. He wore simple brown robes and carried no weapon. When Thesk's soldiers searched his quarters, they found only books and religious items. Nothing illegal, but Father Thomas made a mistake. When a soldier grabbed one of his books roughly, the old man reached out to stop him. It was a reflex. The book had been a gift from his mother, dead now for many years. He meant no harm. Thesk saw an opportunity. Resisting inspection, he announced loudly. A serious crime under Scythian law. Captain Rodriguez stepped forward. "Commander, please." He is an old man. He meant nothing by it. "We have cooperated fully with your search." Thesk ignored her. He looked at Father Thomas with cold eyes. "The penalty for resisting a Scythian inspection is death." The chaplain did not beg. He did not cry. He looked at Thesk with sad eyes and said, "I forgive you." Thesk shot him where he stood. The crew of the Mercy's Light screamed. Captain Rodriguez had to be held back by her own people. But they were unarmed, and Thesk's soldiers had weapons. There was nothing they could do. Thesk returned to his ship feeling proud of himself. He had sent a message. He had shown the humans what happened when they defied the Dominion. He reported his success to Veltrix and waited for praise. The news reached Concord Station Omega within hours. Veltrix received a message from Ambassador Chen. It was polite and brief. Chen requested a private meeting to discuss what she called the unfortunate incident near New Eden. She suggested they meet in a neutral conference room at Chen's earliest convenience. Veltrix agreed. She saw this as another opportunity to humiliate the human ambassador. Chen would probably beg for mercy. She would cry and plead for peace. Veltrix would make demands. She would take New Eden without firing another shot. She was wrong about this too. The conference room was small and plain. No windows. One table. 2 chairs. Chen was already there when Veltrix arrived. The human woman sat quietly, with her hands folded in front of her. Veltrix sat across from her and smiled. Ambassador Chen, I assume you wish to discuss compensation for the criminal who was executed on the Mercy's Light. His name was Father Thomas, Chen said calmly. He was 63 years old. He had served on medical ships for 30 years. He had saved more than 2,000 lives. He never carried a weapon. He never hurt anyone. He resisted inspection. He reached for a book. Veltrix waved her claw dismissively. The details do not matter. Scythian law is clear. Commander Thesk acted within his authority. Chen nodded slowly. She did not look angry. She did not look sad. Her face showed nothing at all. I see, she said. Then I must inform you of what will happen next. Threats, Ambassador? From your position of weakness? Chen smiled. It was a small smile. Patient. Knowing. Not threats. Statements of fact. You have 3 standard cycles to surrender. Commander Thesk to human custody. You will also pay reparations to Father Thomas's family and to the crew of the Mercy's Light. You will issue a formal apology to the human government and the Galactic Concord.
Veltrix laughed.
And if we refuse, then we stop being diplomatic. Something in Chen's voice made Veltrix pause. There was no emotion in those words. No anger. No fear. It was the voice of someone reading a weather report. Something inevitable. Something beyond debate. Is that all? Veltrix asked. Yes, that is all. Veltrix stood. The Scythian Dominion does not surrender its officers to anyone. We do not apologize. We do not pay tribute. Your 3 cycles will pass, and nothing will happen, because there is nothing you can do. She walked to the door. Ambassador Veltrix, Chen called after her. Veltrix turned. I want you to remember this moment, Chen said. I want you to remember that you were given a choice. When the histories are written, I want it recorded that humanity offered you peace. We offered you mercy. We offered you a way out. Your offer is rejected. Chen nodded. I know. It always is. Veltrix left the room. She felt confident. She felt powerful. The humans were clearly bluffing. They had no real strength. They were trying to intimidate her with words. What she did not see was what happened after she left. Chen remained in the room for a long time. She sat very still. Her face finally showed expression. Not anger. Something deeper. Something colder. She pressed a button on her communicator. This is Ambassador Chen, she said. Code Prometheus. Authorization, Chen 77 Alpha. Target designation, Scythian Dominion. Status, active. Voice responded. Understood, Ambassador. Timeline, standard protocol. Economic first. Diplomatic second. Military third. No civilian targets. No unnecessary casualties. We do this the right way, and Ambassador Veltrix. Chen looked at the door where Veltrix had exited. She made her choice. Now she lives with it. The transmission ended. Chen sat alone in the silent room. Somewhere across the galaxy, machines began to move. Plans that had existed for centuries were activated. A civilization that had survived everything the universe had thrown at it was beginning to wake up. The Scythian had 3 cycles to surrender. They would not. And humanity was. Counting on exactly that, the 3 cycles passed. Veltrix waited for the human attack. She had moved Scythian warships into position. She had activated defensive systems. She was ready for war, but no attack came. Days passed, then weeks. Bellatrix began to believe that she had been right all along. The humans were cowards. They had threatened and bluffed, but when the time came to act, they did nothing. She sent messages to the Dominion Council boasting of her victory over human diplomacy. She was still wrong. The first sign of trouble came from the trade routes. Scythian cargo ships began reporting problems with their navigation systems. Nothing serious at first. A wrong coordinate here. A delayed jump there. Each incident was small. Each incident cost money. But they kept happening. Then the supply contracts started failing. Companies that had done business with the Dominion for centuries suddenly found other customers. Prices for Scythian goods dropped. Prices for goods the Dominion needed rose. No one could explain why. Then the communications became unreliable. Messages to allies arrived late or not at all. Private conversations between Scythian officials appeared on public networks. Secrets that had been buried for generations suddenly became known to everyone. Bellatrix investigated. She found no evidence of human involvement. Everything looked like accidents. Bad luck, coincidence. But there were too many coincidences. 3 months after the incident on the Mercy's Light, a human historian published a book. It was called The True History of the Scythian Dominion. It documented every crime the Scythian had committed over the past 2,000 years: slavery, genocide, betrayals of allied species, things that the Dominion had paid fortunes to keep hidden. The book spread across the galaxy like fire. It was translated into every language. It was discussed on every station. Species that had tolerated the Scythian for economic reasons suddenly remembered old wounds, old grievances, old debts that had never been paid. Human artists created images of Scythian cruelty. Human musicians wrote songs about Scythian victims. Human filmmakers produced documentaries with survivor testimonies. The galaxy watched. The galaxy remembered. The galaxy began to turn away. 6 months after the incident, the Scythian economy was cracking. Trade partners had abandoned them. Banks refused to extend credit. Scientists found their research stolen and published by competitors. Politicians discovered that their corruption had become public knowledge. Bellatrix finally understood what was happening. But she still could not prove it. She went to the elder races. She demanded that they intervene. She demanded that they stop whatever the humans were doing. She reminded them of treaties and laws and obligations. The architects of the void, the oldest and most powerful beings in the Concord, listened to her complaints. Then their speaker, a creature of light and shadow that had existed since before the Scythian evolved, gave its response. The law was written for a reason, the architect said. Your ambassador was warned. Your species was warned. Every species is warned. You chose not to listen. We will not save you from the consequences of your choice. But what they are doing is illegal, Bellatrix protested. What are they doing? Show us proof. Show us a human hand behind your troubles. Show us a single law that humans have broken. Bellatrix could not. That was the genius of it. That was the horror. The humans had not fired a single shot. They had not broken a single treaty. They had simply told the truth. They had reminded the galaxy of what the Scythian truly were. They had let the Dominion's own crimes destroy them. 9 months after the incident, the human warships finally arrived. There were thousands of them. They appeared at the edge of Cyanian space without warning. Massive carriers. Swift destroyers. Silent dreadnoughts that blocked out the stars. They moved into position with perfect precision and stopped. They did not attack. They did not advance. They simply waited. Admiral James Okonkwo broadcast a single message. It played on every frequency. It reached every Scythian world. It could not be blocked or jammed. People of the Scythian Dominion, we are here because 9 months ago, your government murdered an innocent man named Father Thomas. We offered your leaders peace. They refused. We offered them mercy. They refused. We offered them a chance to make things right. They refused. The Admiral paused. His dark face was calm. His eyes were patient. "We have not attacked you. We have not killed your people. We have simply shown the galaxy who you truly are. Your economy has collapsed because no one wants to trade with murderers. Your allies have abandoned you because no one wants to stand beside monsters. This is not our doing. This is the consequence of your own actions." Another pause. "Longer this time. We can stay here forever. Our ships are self-sustaining. Our crews rotate home and return. We have planned for a siege that could last centuries. Can you say the same? How long can your people survive without trade? How long before your colonies run out of food? How long before your own citizens begin to question why they are suffering for the crimes of their leaders?" The admiral leaned forward. "Fighting would mean killing your soldiers, most of whom had nothing to do with Father Thomas's murder. It would mean destroying your ships, which cost resources that could be used to help people. It would mean creating more death in a galaxy that has seen too much already." His voice softened. "But we will fight if we must. We will grind your military to dust. We will dismantle your empire piece by piece. We will do whatever it takes to ensure that no Scythian commander ever thinks he can murder an innocent man and face no consequences." He held up his hand. "Or you can end this today. Surrender those responsible for Father Thomas's death. Pay reparations to his family. Issue an apology. Accept reasonable limits on your military expansion. Do these things and we leave. Our ships go home. Trade resumes. Your people stop suffering." He dropped his hand. "The choice is yours. But understand this. We have been patient. We have tried every other option. We have exhausted every path except one. If you force us down that final path, we will walk it without hesitation." The transmission ended. The fleet hung in space like a question waiting for an answer. On Concord Station Omega. Veltrix watched the broadcast with growing horror. She finally understood what humans meant when they stopped being diplomatic. They did not attack blindly. They did not act from emotion. They built their case piece by piece. They made sure that everyone watching knew exactly why they were acting. They made sure that even their enemies would agree they had no choice. This was why the law existed. This was why the warning was carved into every wall. Humans did not just fight wars. They made sure that history would judge them as righteous, and in making that case, they made sure that their enemies would be judged as well. Veltrix looked at the human fleet and saw her future written in their silent patience. She had lost. She had lost before she even began. 1 year after Ambassador Veltrix spilled wine on Ambassador Chin's robes, the Scythian dominion fell. It did not fall to human weapons. It fell from within. The common people of Scythian worlds had watched their economy collapse. They had watched their leaders refuse every chance for peace. They had watched their young soldiers being sent to defend borders against a fleet that would not attack but would not leave. The revolution took 2 months. It was mostly bloodless. The old government tried to rally support by calling the uprising a human plot, but the people knew better. They had access to the same history books that the rest of the galaxy was reading. They knew what their leaders had done. The new Scythian government called itself the Reform Council. Their first act was to arrest Commander Thesk. Their second act was to contact Ambassador Chen. "We will meet your terms," they said. All of them. The human fleet left Scythian space 3 days later. They had been there for 4 months. They had never fired a single shot. But the galaxy had not forgotten. The galaxy would never forget. 2 weeks after the fleet withdrew, trial was held on Concord Station Omega. Commander Thesk stood accused of murder. The evidence was clear. The witnesses were many. The verdict was never in doubt. Thesk was executed by human authority, under human law. His death was quick and clean. The humans did not torture him. They did not make him suffer. They simply ended his life with the same efficiency they brought to everything else. Some species thought this was mercy. Others thought it was something else. A statement. A demonstration. A message to anyone who might consider doing what Thesk had done: you will be found. You will be tried. You will be punished. There is nowhere to hide. The final ceremony took place in the Great Hall, where everything had begun. Ambassador Veltrix stood before the Galactic Concord in chains. The Reform Council had handed her over as part of their agreement with humanity. Ambassador Chen stood before her, unchanged, unhurried. She wore simple white robes just as she had on the day they first met. She still had that small, patient smile. Veltrix of the former Scythene Dominion Chen announced to the assembled representatives. You have been found responsible for the events leading to the death of Father Thomas of the human vessel Mercy's Light. You gave the orders that put Commander Thesk in position to commit his crime. You refused all opportunities for peaceful resolution. You bear the weight of what followed. Veltrix said nothing. Her scales had faded. Her eyes had lost their shine. She looked old in a way that had nothing to do with years. The Scythene Reform Council has agreed to pay reparations for 90 standard years. Your military will be reduced to defensive capacity only. Your borders will be monitored by Concord observers. These terms are not negotiable. Chen paused and looked directly at Veltrix. As for you, you will not be executed. You will not be imprisoned. Instead, you will spend the rest of your life teaching young Scythene about the history of human-alien relations. You will travel to schools and universities. You will tell students why the law exists. You will be a living reminder of what happens when that law is broken. Veltrix finally spoke. Her voice was a whisper. Why? Why not just kill me? Chun's smile faded. For a moment, something real showed in her eyes. Not anger. Something deeper. Something that might have been sadness. Because we need you alive, Chen said. We need your voice telling this story. We need the next generation of Scythene to see your face when you explain how you destroyed everything your people had built. We need them to understand that this is not a legend. This is not ancient history. This is real. This happened. And it can happen again. She stepped back. We are not monsters, Ambassador. We do not enjoy suffering. But we remember. We always remember. And we make sure that everyone else remembers too. The sentencing was complete. Guards led Veltrix away. She did not resist. She did not speak. She had nothing left. After the hall emptied, Corax was permitted to address the remaining observers. The old Scythene walked slowly to the center of the chamber. His gray scales caught the light. His tired eyes swept across the watching faces. I have lived 350 years, he said. I have watched my people make the oldest mistake in the universe. We saw human kindness and thought it was weakness. We saw human patience and thought it was cowardice. We saw human mercy and thought it was opportunity. He paused. His voice grew stronger. We were wrong. Kindness is not weakness. It is a choice. Every time a human offers you friendship, they are choosing not to be your enemy. Every time they extend mercy, they are choosing not to crush you. Every time they show patience, they are choosing not to strike. He looked up at the ancient warning carved above the doors. These choices are gifts. They are given freely, but they are given only once. Push too hard. Take too much. Hurt those they love. And the humans stop choosing kindness. His voice dropped to a whisper that somehow filled the entire hall. You do not want to see what they choose instead. The ceremony ended. The observers departed. But the story did not end. On Concord Station Omega, workers installed a new monument in the main plaza. It stood beside the ancient warning that had been there for 9,000 years. The new monument was simple. It showed a human hand open in friendship. But the fingers were positioned so that they could close into a fist at any moment. Beneath the sculpture, new words were carved in every known language. They will offer you peace. Take IT. They will offer you mercy. Accept IT. They will offer you friendship. Treasure IT. For these are gifts. They give only once, far across the galaxy. On a small blue world orbiting an ordinary yellow star, a young species was taking its first steps toward the heavens. They called themselves the Torvik. They had just invented faster-than-light travel. They were filled with excitement and dreams and hunger for the unknown. They did not know that they were not alone. They did not know that thousands of civilizations awaited them. They did not know about the Concord, or the elder races, or the warnings carved into ancient stone, but they would learn. Torvik's scout ship entered inhabited space for the first time. It was a small vessel, crewed by brave explorers who had left everything they knew behind. They followed signals they did not understand, toward a massive station that hung among the stars. Like a jewel. Concord Station Omega, the Torvik captain guided her ship toward the docking bay. She stared through her viewport at the incredible structure before her. Aliens of every shape moved through the corridors. Lights flickered in patterns she could not decode. Everything was new. Everything was wonderful. And then she saw it, carved above every entrance, written in lights that never dimmed, translated automatically into her own language by systems she did not understand. Do not provoke the humans. She stared at the words for a long time. Her crew gathered behind her, reading the warning with confused eyes. Humans, one of them said. What are humans? The captain shook her head. I don't know. But if the entire galaxy warns against provoking them... She thought about the warning. She thought about what it might mean. She thought about the stories she would hear in the days ahead, the history she would learn, the truths she would discover. She thought about the choice her people would eventually face. Take the friendship. Accept the mercy. Treasure the peace, or break the only law that mattered. The captain looked at her crew. Young faces. Eager faces. Full of hope and ambition and the certainty that they could conquer anything. She had seen that certainty before. In her own mirror on the day she left home. Whatever we learn here, she said slowly. Whatever deals we make, whatever conflicts we face, remember this warning. Remember that someone thought it was important enough to carve into stone 9,000 years ago. Remember that it is still here. She turned back to the viewport. And remember that warnings exist for a reason. The Torvik ship docked at Concord Station Omega. The airlock opened. The captain stepped forward into a universe she did not yet understand. The question, as always, was whether she would listen. History suggested that she probably would not. But that was a story for another day.